My name is Adam Ribaudo. I'm the VP of Marketing Data Strategy at Velir. I love feedback. Let me see if I can find my sweet spot. There we go. And this is?
Hello, I'm David Gelman. I am a Director of Data Solutions and also Velir/Brooklyn Data Company's AI and ML practice lead.
And we're going to be talking today about AI and the role of the data analyst. So by show of hands, are a data analyst today or have worked as a data analyst in some capacity in the past? Almost everyone. Now keep your hands up. Also, this guy. A couple of you. We're going to be talking about how AI today and in the near future predict out more than 6 months. Agree on that. And why it's important is that a lot of hype, despite a lot of fear around job replacement, I think there's a real opportunity. And if you've throughout the morning, the seed that I'll plant here now that I think we'll come back to later is a theme of accessibility, especially in the realm of data, making data more accessible to those within your organization, to you as a data analyst, but making it more accessible to those who might not be as data literate or as data mature as you. So I think that's a real opportunity we want to latch onto. So let's jump into it. There we go. So just a quick about Velir. We're about 250 professionals headquartered in the Boston area, and we see data as a key driver to a mature digital program, which is why we acquired Brooklyn Data Company. So if you want to talk to us about any of our services, I'd be happy to do so. Okay. So we're going to be talking about whether AI is going to be your best friend or your replacement. So as a best friend, this is something that might accelerate your work, maybe save you some time. Replacement would look like something that can do your entire job end to end. And so we've put together something of an AI Olympics. We have taken a number of different AI vendors and sort of put it through their paces and put together this presentation for you to sort of answer this question. Is this something that can really be chained together end to end, or something that's going to accelerate, or something that might disrupt your work in some way? So the funny thing about these conversations about AI is it ends up being, what does it mean to be human? In this capacity, you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to augment, help, or replace a data analyst, what does it mean to actually be a data analyst? Cutting edge. Yeah. Turn this guy off. Try this. Is that better? Oh, that's so much better. Thank you, Scott. Great. So we want to ask ourselves, what does it really mean to be a data analyst? And we could give a whole talk on this topic. I think the 35-minute conference talk version is someone who works through these core workflows that could be enabled or augmented in some way. So data preparation, data analysis, and data storytelling. So we're going to go through these workflows and talk about at each step of the way, where can AI help out? Harder. Okay. Some caveats here. We weren't able to preview or go through the entire landscape. I think by the end of this talk, 3 new AI services will have been launched. So there's no way that we could test all of them. We decided intentionally to stick to some of the core services that are sticking around here. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, you'll see Snowflake, Cortex in here. And we had to end up kind of cherry picking examples. So we ran a litany of tests against all of these and kind of cherry picked, to sort of find best case examples of where we saw it working or maybe not working. So it wasn't as exhaustive as if we had time to really touch every single combination of challenge and AI vendor. And then finally, this is all based on dummy data. I think the results that you'll see in our presentation could be akin to something of like maybe more of a junior analyst. These are sort of sample test cases. We obviously weren't allowed to upload and shouldn't be uploading our clients' data. So I think these challenges in an enterprise context might look a little bit different. But I think for dummy data purposes, you can sort of get an example of where things are strong and where they fall apart. We do have a GitHub repo where we have the dummy data that we use, some of the scripts that generated that dummy data, some of the results from our testing. So we'll flash that at the end of the presentation. Got to find the sweet spot. There we go. I would have made less slides if I knew it was so hard to advance. Oh, no. Okay, great. We're going to start with data preparation. So how many people here can relate to this pie chart here? How many people love pie charts here? That'll divide the room. I won't ask that. So this is an interesting case because I think in the realm of accelerate, best friend or accelerate my work or replace my work, I think this is an example where we would probably happily be replaced in some regards. I think we see ourselves as data ninjas that are delivering insights to the C-suite, but oftentimes you're sort of stuck in spreadsheet hell and cleaning up commas, basically. So this was an interesting, I think, focus area to dig into and see sort of state of the art and what AI agents can do. So broke this up into 3 subtasks: data discovery, so finding data within your organization; data cleaning, actually manipulating that data to clean it, make it ready for analysis; and data modeling, joining disparate data sets together, again, for analysis. I'm going to bounce it off of that. I don't know what else. There we go. Okay, great. So, sorry, I'm going to actually be able to view things here. So in terms of data discovery, we used Snowflake Copilot for this, uploaded sample data to a Snowflake instance, and ran through some tests around finding different data sets using human readable prompts. And in this one, fairly simple example. The prompt is, if I want to understand the influence of marketing spend on sales, what tables should I query? You can see the results over on the right. You don't really have to read through that. What I want to pull out of here is that we do not literally have an order. We don't literally have a table called sales. We have a table with orders. We don't literally have a table that says marketing spend. We have something that has paid media and organic traffic. So it was able to infer what I meant by the influence of sales or marketing on sales just through that sort of semantic understanding. So I think this is where you can see AI leaping above and beyond more traditional data catalog services, which are usually keyword driven, and actually understanding the semantics and the meaning, sort of what you're inferring by your question to be able to find data throughout your organization. Now, some limitations here, and with Snowflake Copilot in particular, it can only scan through one schema at a time, which may not be entirely useful if you're using this for broad data discovery efforts. And it does kind of beg the question, well, how well is this going to work when it's scanning your entire organization's data and there's 14 orders tables and only Jim over there knows which one is the right one? So there's still a lot to be, left to be desired here. But this moves on to kind of a related topic, which is the upstream work to make this data discoverable. And here we have an example of, and keep you in suspense.
You got it.
Here we go. I would say turtles all the way down, or AI all the way down, where this is an animation of DBT Assist. If you're not familiar with DBT, it's a data transformation tool that can use AI to generate documentation for you. That documentation can then be fed into your Snowflake schema to be used by Snowflake Copilot. So you can see how the data discovery component is going to be very much dependent on upstream decisions that your organization is making. Are we documenting our tables? Are we documenting our schemas? And here we have AI helping with that documentation. So just a nice example of some synergies there, some handoff points between AI agents that can provide some, I think, very broad and diffuse benefits to your organization in terms of data discovery. So our next task is data cleaning. So wanted to give it kind of a layup here. So if you did not know, now you know that ChatGPT can strip out commas and do some very basic data transformation on CSV files. I think everyone here is aware that could probably write the Python scripts for you to automate this at scale, which is great. But where we ran into some trouble was with more complex data cleaning tasks, and maybe it wasn't fair because I think this in the 7 inner circles of hell of data analyst work, phone number cleaning, I think is probably that innermost circle. But can you generate SQL to clean? And Jim was talking earlier about how executives need to put their 10 hours in to really understand AI, and I think I put my 10 hours in just trying to get this to work. It was unable to clean these strings. Feels like something that an AI agent would be able to do, but it really struggled One limitation within, with Snowflake Copilot is that it doesn't actually read your data. It's just reading the schema. So it understands the intentions. You can describe what the data might look like, but it doesn't actually read the data, and that may have been kind of a barrier for it. What I will say is that it did generate useful SQL, right? Like it does give you kind of like a starting point that you can then pick up and run with as an analyst. And I think that's an accelerator in its own right, but it was not able to sort of complete the task as described. As you can see from all the null values on the right, it really got tripped up by extensions even after describing what extensions are ad nauseum. So then we move on to data modeling. So was it able to sort of find tables of information across the organization and stitch them together? So I uploaded lots of dummy data around fake job titles, colors, currencies, just lots of different things joined in very mysterious ways. And generally speaking, it was able to sort of make those leaps, across tables. So if you have a table over here that's joined to this table over here through a multitude of, identifiers, it's able to make those leaps. And it was pretty happy with the results here. Tried to put it through its paces as well and seeing if it could handle more complicated queries that require window functions and ranking. And the answer is that it could. So I was really happy with the SQL generation capabilities here. It's a little surprising, I think, to see that it struggled so much with the phone number task, but did so well in the data modeling tasks. Again, this was Snowflake again, so you'd kind of expect the SQL generation capabilities to be pretty strong. So in this case, if we wanted to sort of rank the top jobs based on some value in another table, that requires a window function. It's just a more advanced method of generating SQL code to rank items. And so it was able to accomplish that. So I'm going to pass it off to David, who's going to talk about data analysis, and I'll give you this cursed pointer.
I can't wait. Thank you, Adam. So data analysis, right? Like this is the part in the journey where you have that aha moment. And for me, it's still always like, yes, like there's something there, that's great. And it's in between the hard work that you don't want to do and the cleaning, and also the hard work you don't want to do about communicating, which we're going to talk about after this. So like this is the good part, right? Aha, exactly. But what we really want to know is, let's like really basic. We're going to have tabular, structured data. Can an AI tool produce an accurate insight? And like no tuning, no agent, just out of the box, like can this thing do this? And the answer is kinda. So my conclusion here for this, not to bury the lead, is it's not your best friend, it's not your replacement, it's probably your frenemy. And why exactly I think this I'll get to in about 3.5 minutes. What we want to do though is we want to run experiments, right? Like we want to go and we want to evaluate. So before we evaluate, we have to know what is an outcome that we are going to accept as good. So for here, good looks like a model returning the correct relationship for a function that is described in the data, in this CSV that we upload. And in really simple prompt, I'm uploading a CSV. It's got a row for each day of the year, each week of the year. What is the relationship in the data? So let's start as basic as we can. Inverse relationship, right? Like you see it and you're like, oh, this is exactly what it is. On the x-axis, it's the weeks of the year. The y-axis is whatever metric you care about. It could be ice cream sales. It could be shark attacks. Well, those we know are inversely. Those are actually correlated, so it's not going to be those two. But anyway, and we got a great response from the model here, right? Dimensions are strongly negatively correlated. Perfect. First test. Great. Let's throw something a little bit more complicated at it. Let's put some noise into the function. Not so good here. The model tells us that it shows a positive correlation between dimension A and dimension B, but this is clearly not true. Right? So you hear this referred to as hallucination. I'm not a big fan of the term hallucination because it's just an incorrect answer. Okay, let's throw something a little bit more complicated at it. Sine waves with noise. It gets this right. which is like pretty amazing. All right, so we've done 3 different functions. We've gotten 2 responses that worked, 1 that didn't. What about something that looks a little bit more like real world? There we go. Okay, so we have another graph. We have 3 different lines in case you can't see the colors, because I know the glare is a little weird. You have organic search orders, which are the red, and that's high, and then it goes to nothing. We have paid search orders, which are nothing, and then it goes really high. And we also have other orders in green, which is, relatively speaking, stable across the year. What do we think is? Yeah, what do you guys think is happening? You guys are all data analysts. Yeah. Cannibalization could be. Any other possibilities? Interesting. Any other ideas? Cool, I like both of those. But that took what for your brain to make that conclusion? 5 seconds? Like basically no time, it's intuitive. You look at it and you're like, I have an idea. So let's do this again. Let's figure out what good looks like. Good looks like a statement that the model responds with where either organic and paid are related to each other correctly, how other is flat across the year, or how total orders, right, everything is stable across the year. Like these are good insights to derive from this data. And we're going to use prompt engineering. I'm not going to show all the prompts, ran a lot of them, and we tried to iteratively improve it. But you could just imagine like a very simple prompt of, in just a few words, or what's the relationship? Thank you. And got some not so great results. I particularly want to call out this bold one, which says paid search orders consistently remain at 0 throughout the year. I'm guessing by the laughs, you guys all see that that is in fact not at all true. Other things are a number of organic search orders appear to directly impact the total number of orders. I certainly don't see any causal analysis going on. I certainly didn't instruct the model to perform any sort of regression discontinuity design modeling. None of that is happening. Okay, so some not so good results. But there were also good ones. So some that I liked that I got back were paid search and organic search are mutually exclusive and inversely related. Other orders are relatively consistent. Those are great insights to derive from this. And again, it's drawing from the data, not the image. Other category seems to be relatively independent of the other 2 categories. Interesting. These are good results. I think the real problem is that these are some results. This is not every result. Some other observations I want to talk about from running these experiments are, so I was using Gemini here because I wanted to see how a non-data specific model would handle these things. We noticed a real jump in performance from 1.0 to 1.5. I think something that basically every joke in every talk today is mentioned about everything being outdated. Adam cracked one like 10 slides ago. It's interesting the rate of development, right? And we noticed this even within our experiments. I also want to call it that I fed the model inaccurate information in some of my prompts. So I created a phantom social category. And sometimes the model would say, I don't know what you're talking about. And sometimes it would say, yes, social is inversely related. Great. So my conclusion for data analysis, at least, is that untuned out-of-the-box models, right, where there's no additional, RAG or agents or anything else going on, is really not up to snuff when it comes to pure data analysis. Now, again, caveat, this is not a data-specific LLM underlying any of this analysis. This is an out-of-the-box general purpose model. So I think it's clear that it's your frenemy because sometimes it's going to give you the right answer, and sometimes it's going to send you down the wrong path. And we'll have a little bit more to say this in a minute. I'll hand it back over to Adam.
Thank you. So where are we so far? We saw that in data preparation, kind of mixed results. Data discovery, a lot of promise there as long as the upstream data is clean. With data cleaning and data modeling, some kind of mixed results there. Data analysis, maybe not going to put an analysis generated by Gemini in front of your boss tomorrow. But how about data storytelling? So I think we came into this pretty optimistic about data storytelling, because if there's anything that large language models are good at, it's language. And it's sort of fine-tuning language and expressing it in many different ways. What is data storytelling? Well, there's the definition by Cole Nussbaumer-Knaflic, who wrote a book on the topic, which is great. But I think we can all agree that data storytelling is a vibe. It is some squishy mix of narrative and fact, and really what matters is what the audience gets out of it at the end. And so the stakes are high, because you could have done a great job with your data prep, your data cleaning, your data analysis, but if you aren't able to deliver this to the audience that you're meant to speak to, it all runs flat, right? So it's pretty important. So we broke this down into a couple subtasks. One, presentation building, the just mechanical act of putting together a presentation, and then the last one, story delivery. Now the first one, I admit, kind of rammed in here because I wanted to try Google's Looker Studio Pro capability of generating presentations from Looker Studio dashboards. So was able to take a dashboard. You may be familiar with the cannibalization graphic from earlier, put together a very simple dashboard, plug it into Looker Studio, and see what kind of slides it would present as an output. And what it generated was fairly underwhelming, and that's an example slide on the right. It's really just kind of screenshots of your dashboard with some text on the right, and we already know the analysis that it's producing isn't all that hot. So I was trying to think of what would good look like for this task, and came to this realization that if it could provide annotations, I feel like that would be kind of the next level where it's actually adding value to this stage in the workflow. Because think about what an annotation does. It focuses attention. We have a chart here with a lot of numbers, a lot of lines, a lot of colors. What is the one line or the one point in time that your audience should be focused on? So just something that I've been keeping in mind, once I see that capability come from any AI-driven tool, I think I'll take note, because it feels like it kind of falls flat without any of that editorializing around what's going on in the data. And then next we're going to go to story delivery. So this is an area where I was pleasantly surprised by a new feature that came out during the course of us putting together the presentation, and this has made its appearance in 2 talks already today. So clearly people have taken note, and that's Notebook LM's ability to create podcasts. And this blew the doors wide open for me in rethinking how AI can help us with data storytelling. Because it takes it from a task of, I need to, the PowerPoint hell, I need to put together this PowerPoint, and all right, and we're done. It gets us out of PowerPoint hell and sort of opens up opportunities as analysts to speak to people the way that they want to be spoken to. There's an example from the workshop this morning from John Levitt, and Jim told this anecdote as well, where if somebody said, I use AI because I work with counterparts that are a generation separated from me, and I want to be able to speak their language and make sure I'm communicating effectively with them. And I thought that was very powerful, and you can see that here. You can put together a podcast based on your analysis, have it be whimsical, have it be formal, depending on your audience. And maybe this is a modality that will actually resonate with the audience that you're trying to reach. And you can imagine similar, other modalities. Maybe it's not a podcast. Maybe it is a long-form essay. Maybe it's a series of images. But again, it kind of unlocks this capability or the superpower of a data analyst to get the point across based on the context and framing that might be necessary. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but I think that we talk a lot about data literacy and that as a barrier to others in the organization, but I might reframe that as a data accessibility problem. Maybe it's not a data literacy problem, but maybe we need to come to them with different ways of communicating and different ways of sharing our results.
Can I add one more thing about the Notebook LM? It got the analysis right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, Dave spent his 10 hours prompt engineering those graphs, and then suddenly this podcast host comes out with the right answer about cannibalization. And, yeah.
So again, just another example of the newer models performing being much more performant. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. We we discussed the trade-offs of embedding audio and
I
hoping
think we
for the best
wisely
here.
decided not to.
But I encourage you all to try this. Notebook LM, it's free, provided by Google. It's very conversational. You'll notice after you generate 3 or 4 of them that the conversations do kind of sound kind of similar, but they've clearly interpreted your work, and it's banter. It's back and forth, and yeah, they get things in the right order. Yeah.
And I would also say anecdotally, a bunch of people I've seen a lot of people on my LinkedIn network who are like, I'm playing around with this. And by the way, Notebook LM, generated a podcast. We had people within our Slack channel a couple weeks ago who were like, oh, this thing came out. I tried it. It actually worked. So people seem to be very happy with the results that it's producing.
I see Scott creeping. It makes me think we're short on time. No. Oh, you're just creepy. Okay.
All right. So I guess I will take the conclusion.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to walk backwards and it worked. Wow. So just a reminder where we are, right? We set out to look at the data analyst lifecycle. We broke it down to these different components. We had 5 that we were really looking at. And this is just a reminder of sort of where we've been. So data discovery, good. Data cleaning, yeah, okay. Data modeling, also, yeah, okay. Data analysis, no. Storytelling, I think we're generally enthusiastic. And I think the real question, and I think this goes back to what Pete was talking about during his talk an hour and a half ago, is how can you chain these things together, right? How can you have an agent that performs the task for you, not just one task, but taking the output of one model, feeding it as an input to another, having these things combine and actually generate more value. I think we're all familiar with the analytics value chain and how these things snowball and get more value the further up the value chain you can go. So can they be chained all together? Again, right now the answer is yes, with a lot of work and development, but not sort of through our efforts here. And again, want to reiterate that these are all from a toy example. This is simple toy data. We're talking about a CSV for the analysis that I was doing that was 157 rows. Right? This is not a really complex problem.
Which makes you think that the shading goes one notch lower in an enterprise context. I mean, yeah, this really was toy data, and it didn't even hit the mark. Yeah, in some of those cases.
That said, I think both Adam and I are really bullish on where things can go. Right. So right now, I don't even think best friend is probably where we're at. AI is an assistance. More complex models, more development, these things can provide more value. Out of the box, untuned, you're probably not going to get a lot out of it. And I would certainly offer a lot of caveats about whether or not it's even a good idea to be pursuing this in a business context, right? I think it's really important to play around. Everything that Jim was saying about you have to be a change agent, you need to experiment, you need to participate, but relying on it out of the box and just being well, it's trained by people that get paid a lot of money to do this and their company is worth $80 bazillion. That is not a guarantee that this is actually going to be good for you. And I think the major theme that I've already started to hear today is it's about context for what your business is doing, and it is about purpose-built applications, right? You can't just use it out of the box. But in the 3 months since we started talking about this, Notebook LM came out, we switched a model and got right results. So.
O1 came out. What else came out?
Yeah. Thank you guys all so much for coming. We really appreciate your attention. As Adam mentioned, we do have the GitHub repository up. I think we have some extra time for questions, which we'd be more than happy to answer.